I thought exhaustion was the worst thing my family could give me. Until the day my sister showed up shaking, holding a piece of paper that changed everything I believed about them. You do not really notice how poor you are when you are little. Not at first. You just notice the tension. I remember sitting on the floor with crayons while my mom whispered to the electric company on the phone. She was pacing. That nervous pacing she always did when bills were due. The words she said stuck to the walls like wallpaper. Nie zaraz. Niemaya koszty. Jakas wytygniemy. Not now. No money. We will figure it out. Over and over. Those phrases became the background music of my childhood. Not nursery rhymes. Not bedtime stories. Just the sound of worry. I was 7 the first time I heard the word foreclosure. I did not know what it meant, but I knew it was bad. Dad slammed the phone and punched the wall. My mom cried in the laundry room, thinking no one could hear her. They thought I did not understand, but I did. I always did. We were the family with excuses. The ones who never stayed long in one apartment. Who always just needed a little help, but never seemed to get back on their feet. And somehow, even as a kid, I knew the burden was slowly shifting to me. By the time I was 10, I stopped asking for birthday parties. By 12, I knew how to lie to the school about why I did not have lunch money. By 15, I had 3 under-the-table jobs, yard work, dishwashing, cash register at a sketchy corner store, because someone had to keep the lights on when my dad lost his 4th job that year. I do not even remember being mad. I just remember being tired. Always tired. My mom used to look at me with this mixture of pride and guilt, like she was proud I was stepping up, but hated that I had to. I would come home from work and see the stress melting off her face for a second. Just for a second. Then it would come back. "You are a good boy, Mason," she would say. "Good boys do not let the family sink. Good boys take care of their own." So I did. I got the best grades I could. I skipped parties. I avoided trouble. Not because I wanted a better life for me, but because I thought maybe, just maybe, if I worked hard enough, I could pull all of us out. Every scholarship I chased, every test I aced, it was not about pride. It was about pressure. There was no backup plan. I still remember sitting in that freezing living room the winter our heat was cut off, looking at my mom wrapped in 3 blankets, whispering, "We just need one win." And I told myself I would be that win. I would make it. Veep you sub UD. I would rise up. For all of us. I swore it. But what no one tells you is that once you become the win, once you start climbing, you are not just climbing for yourself anymore. You are carrying everyone who refused to let go. And the higher you go, the heavier it gets. College was not freedom. It was obligation dressed up in a diploma. I got a full ride to a decent university out of state. First in my family to do anything like that. You would think that would be a celebration, right? Some kind of victory. But when I told my parents, the first thing my mom said was not, "I'm proud of you." It was, "Will you be sending money home?" I had not even moved into the dorms yet. And just like that, the dream I thought I was chasing for myself turned into another chore. Another bill to pay, just an emotional currency now. Still, I worked. Hard. I pulled 16-hour days between classes, tutoring, and working the late shift at a gas station where the heat barely worked and the boss watched the cameras like a hawk. I ate whatever I could get from the dollar menu, wore the same 2 pairs of jeans until they started to rip, and I sent money home. Not because I had to, but because I thought I was supposed to. Every month it was something. The water got shut off. My dad needed help with a credit card bill. My little sister's school trip needed paying. Groceries, rent, gas, broken heater, broken car, broken promises, always broken something. And I never said no. Because when you grow up hearing, "Yakas vikinama," every time the world crashes, you start to believe you are this. You are this somehow. So I became it. I did not party. I did not date. I did not even walk at graduation. I had a job lined up and rent to pay for them, not for me. Funny thing about finally getting real money. It never feels like enough when your past is a black hole swallowing every paycheck. By 24, I was managing logistics at a freight company. Salary, benefits, a car that did not stall every 3rd ignition. I thought maybe things would slow down. But success is a strange thing. It does not always buy freedom. Sometimes it just buys more chains. Because the minute my family saw that I was doing well, they stopped seeing me as their son or their brother. They saw a solution. A walking, talking lifeline. And lifelines do not get to rest. The first time I saw my bank account hit 5 figures, I did not feel joy. I felt fear. It was like I was holding something I was not allowed to keep. Like any minute, someone would knock on my door and say, "That money? It is not yours. Hand it over." And in a way, someone did. It started small. My mom needed a new fridge. Not fancy, just something that did not leak. I wired the money without hesitation. Then my dad's old truck gave out. He called, voice low and defeated, asking if I could help him get a used one off Craigslist. My brother-in-law lost his job, then his apartment. They had 2 kids. I covered a deposit for a place closer to his new gig. Cousin needed dental work. Uncle needed help with court fees. Someone else needed something for something urgent. Always urgent. Each time I told myself, this will be the last one. But it never was. Because once people find out you can help, they stop finding ways to help themselves. The weird part? No one ever said thank you. Not really. They just called it support. Called it family. I stopped hearing "how are you?" and started hearing "can I borrow?" Instead, I would open my phone and feel dread. Not from bills or debt collectors like when I was a kid, but from the people I loved asking for just one more thing. And it was never one more thing. I started to avoid calls. Ignored texts. I knew what they wanted before they even asked. One night, I remember sitting alone in my apartment, lights off, laptop open. I was calculating, budgeting, spreadsheets, bills. Not mine. Theirs. I had a better job now. I was making almost 6 figures. But it felt like I was still living on scraps. It hit me hard. None of this was mine. Not the money. Not the peace. Not the freedom. I was just the middleman between their disasters and their next lifeline. They were drowning. But they had taught me how to swim so well, they figured I could carry them all on my back. And I believed it too, until the day I snapped. It happened on a random Tuesday. I remember that because I had finally gotten a full 8 hours of sleep the night before. That had become rare. Sleep was usually the first thing I sacrificed when the calls came in. That morning, I made coffee, sat down, and opened an email from my sister. Subject line, urgent, do not ignore. It was not about her. It was about her friend. Her friend's kid was sick. They were behind on hospital bills. She figured I could just spot them a little to help out. Said I would get it back in a few months. I just stared at the screen. No hi. No hope you're doing okay. Not even a sentence about how weird it might be to ask for money for someone I had never even met. Just this growing assumption that I would say yes. Because I always did. I hit reply. I typed the words, "I can't help this time." Then I stared at the blinking cursor. My finger hovered over backspace. But I sent it. 10 minutes later, she called. Not to ask. To accuse. She said I had changed. Said I was letting money turn me cold. Said that after everything our family had been through, I should know better than to leave someone hanging. Then she said the words that broke something in me. You're the only one who made it. What else is your success for? Not, I'm proud of you. Not, you earned this. Just a reminder that anything I built was never truly mine. It was like every step I had taken, every night I worked while they slept, every time I skipped meals to pay tuition, every sacrifice, they all belonged to them. That night, I did not sleep. Not from stress. From something else. Something quieter. Something that sounded a lot like grief. I had spent my whole life trying to lift my family out of struggle. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being part of the family and became the foundation they stood on. And now that I was cracking, I realized no one planned to catch me if I fell. I kept telling myself I could handle it. That if I just held out a little longer, made a bit more money, bought a second property, something, anything, then the weight would ease up. That they would stop needing me so much. That someone else would step up. But the truth is, no one ever plans to stop leaning on the one holding the load. Especially when you never drop it. That month, everything came crashing at once. My mom's rent was late again. My dad's back went out, and he could not work his part-time gig. My cousin totaled her car and needed help with insurance. Then my sister? She found out she was pregnant. Surprise. They all reached out like it was a group project, and I was the only one who brought a pencil. And just like always, I paid. I wired the money. I shuffled bills. I skipped groceries. Again. But the final straw came from the person I thought would never ask. My little brother, Noah. He was always different. Quieter. More thoughtful. He never leaned too hard. Never asked for more than what he truly needed. We had the same childhood, same memories, same shame. So when he called, I picked up without thinking. His voice was shaky. Said he had fallen behind on rent, had not told anyone, and was about to get evicted. He promised it would just be this once. Swore he would pay me back. And of course, I believed him, because he was the last one I still trusted. I sent the money, full month's rent, and a little extra, just in case. Then 3 days later, I saw a photo on his girlfriend's page. A vacation photo, smiling on a beach, cocktail in hand. Hashtag weekend escape. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. He had lied, just like the others. He had become one of them. Something inside me broke. And this time, I did not fix it. For a while, I tried to tell myself it did not matter. That maybe Noah really needed the break. That maybe I was overreacting. That maybe I was just tired. But deep down, I knew the truth. Something had shifted in me the moment I saw that beach photo. It was like watching the last good piece of my past slip underwater. The next twist came fast. 2 days later, my boss called me into his office. I thought maybe he wanted to check in about the new training program I had put together. Instead, he closed the door gently and told me the company was downsizing. The words hit like a punch to the ribs. I stood there, nodding, pretending to understand. But inside, everything cracked. My job had been the one stable thing holding all the chaos together. The paycheck, the schedule, the sense of control. Losing it felt like losing the only lifeboat I had left. I went home that night to a stack of messages waiting on my phone. My mom needed help with utilities. My dad needed medication money. My cousin had a sudden emergency. And my sister? She sent a long text about how expensive baby stuff was and how she hoped her big brother could step in like always. They had no idea I had just lost the job funding all of their crises. They did not even ask how I was doing. They just assumed the money was there, like I was a bottomless well. I paced around my apartment until the walls felt like they were closing in. Every message I read tightened something in my chest. Then came the twist I never imagined. That night, my landlord stuck a notice on my door. He was raising rent. By a lot. And I looked around at the place I had barely furnished, barely lived in, because I had spent all my time and money taking care of everyone else. Suddenly, the reality hit me harder than any bill ever had. I was the one in trouble. I was the one about to fall behind. I was the one who needed help. And somehow, the thought of calling any of them, my family, the people I had carried for years, felt impossible. Because I already knew the answer. They would not help. They could not help. They never had. And the awful truth was this. I had spent my whole life lifting them up. And now that I was falling, there was no one left to catch me. I woke up the next morning with that heavy feeling in my chest, the kind that makes it hard to breathe before you even open your eyes. I knew I needed to do something, fix something, come up with some plan like I always did. Except this time, I was not sure where to start. I made coffee I could barely taste, sat on the edge of my bed, and stared at my phone. The messages from my family were still there, piling up like unpaid bills in a mailbox you are afraid to open. For the first time in my life, I did not answer them. Not the missed calls, not the texts, not even the guilt-laced voicemails. I just sat there, feeling the silence stretch out between us. Around noon, I got a surprise call, not from family, but from Ethan, an old friend I had not spoken to in almost a year. He moved out of state for work, started a new life, and we drifted apart. But he had seen my boss's post on LinkedIn about difficult staffing decisions, and he figured maybe I was one of them. He wanted to check in. It stunned me. Someone was calling me for me. Not for money. Not for some problem to fix. Just to ask if I was okay. I did not even realize how badly I needed that until it happened. We talked for almost an hour. I told him everything. Well, almost everything. I told him about losing the job, the rent hike, the burnout, the exhaustion that lived in my bones. I left out the part where my family had drained me dry for years. I was not ready to say that part out loud yet. When we hung up, I noticed something strange. I felt lighter. Not fixed, not healed, but lighter. Like maybe I did not have to carry everything alone anymore. But right when I thought the day might be turning around, another twist hit. At 5:30 p.m., my sister showed up at my apartment. I knew because she started pounding on the door like she was trying to break it open. I froze. I was not ready. I was not strong enough. I did not want to face her. I did not want to see the look she always wore, toxic disappointment mixed with entitlement. But she kept knocking. Louder. Harder. Calling my name through the door. Mason, open up. This is serious. And that part was new. Her voice actually sounded scared. Against every instinct in my body, I got up and opened the door. She stood there, eyes wide, hands trembling, holding something crumpled in her fist. I had no idea what it was. A bill? A notice? A hospital slip? For the first time in years, I saw something on her face that was not anger or expectation. It was fear. She stepped inside without waiting for permission. She sat down, like her legs had given out. Then she handed me the paper and whispered, "You need to read this. Right now." My stomach dropped, because I could see enough of the document to know exactly what it was. A debt collection notice, but not one of hers, one of mine. And according to the letter, my name was attached to a loan I had never taken out. Someone had used me, someone in my own family, and it was not who I expected. The entire room started spinning as the truth finally clawed its way to the surface. This was not just them leaning on me. Someone had crossed a line I never thought they would cross. I stared at the paper in my hand, my eyes scanning the words but refusing to believe them. My name, my address, my social security number. It was all there. Except, I never signed this. I never applied for any loan from this place. But according to the document, I had taken out over $22,000 months ago. Payments had been missed. Penalties were stacking. Legal action was pending. I looked at my sister. Her face said she already knew what I was about to ask. Who did this? She could not even say his name, just whispered it. Noah. I felt the air get sucked out of the room. Noah, my little brother. The one I stood up for when he got jumped in high school. The one I covered rent for just last week. The one I defended every time someone in the family called him too soft or lazy. He had stolen my identity, opened a loan in my name, and never said a word. My sister said she found out because he asked her for help covering one of the payments. He was behind, panicking, and admitted it all in a moment of desperation. She looked at me, eyes watering, and said, "I had no idea, Mason. I swear. I told him to come clean." But he hadn't. He had just kept quiet, hoping I would never find out. Hoping, maybe, that I would pay it off like I always did. Like it was just another fire for Big Brother to put out. Something inside me fractured. Not snapped. Not exploded. It was quieter than that. Just a slow, deep crack down the middle of whatever hope I had left. I stood up, numb, and walked to the window. The city lights blurred outside, like I was underwater. I thought about all the things I had said to myself over the years. They just need help. They do not know better. They would do the same for me. But none of that was true. This was not about love anymore. This was theft. It was betrayal. And it came from the one person I still believed in. I turned back to my sister, trying to steady my voice. What else? She hesitated. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out another envelope. This one smaller. Inside, a thank you card from our cousin, thanking me for helping her pay off her car loan. Only, I never helped her with that. Noah did. With the stolen loan money. He had been using my name to play the hero, to buy favors, to build up some version of himself that he never earned. I felt sick. He had not just stolen money. He had stolen my story, and I was left holding the wreckage. I did not sleep that night. Just sat at my kitchen table, that stack of papers in front of me like a crime scene I could not walk away from. Everything felt poisoned. Every memory, every dollar, every sacrifice. I kept asking myself, how did we get here? How did love become leverage? How did helping turn into being used? I pulled out a notebook and made a list. Not a budget, not a to-do. A list of every time I said yes when I should have said no. Rent, groceries, hospital bills, car repairs, court fines, school supplies, new fridge, bail money, emergency flights, loans, and now identity theft. At the bottom of the page, I wrote a sentence without even thinking. I cannot keep saving people who keep sinking me. The next day, I did the hardest thing I have ever done. I reported the identity theft. Yes, I filed a police report. On my brother. It was not about revenge. It was not even about the money, not really. It was about stopping the bleeding. About setting a boundary so hard it could not be crossed again. I knew what it meant. I knew it could tear the family apart. I knew they would turn on me. And they did. The calls started within hours. My mom, crying, asking how I could do this to Noah. My dad, furious, saying I should have handled it privately. My sister said I was being cold, that it was just money. But that was the problem. To them, it was just money. To me, it was every sleepless night, every missed opportunity, every piece of myself I gave away thinking it would make them whole. And still, they wanted more. So I cut the line. I told them I would not be sending money anymore. Not for rent. Not for food. Not for emergencies. I told them I needed time, distance, silence. I told them this. I love you, but I will not bleed so you can stay comfortable. Then I blocked every number. And just like that, the noise stopped. For the first time in years, I could hear my own thoughts again. And what I heard surprised me. It was not guilt. It was relief. The silence was deafening at first. I kept waiting for the guilt to kick in. Real, heavy guilt, the kind that wraps around your neck and pulls tight. But it never came. I spent that week alone. No calls, no texts. Just me, my apartment, and the unfamiliar feeling of being completely unburdened. For once, I used my money on myself. Paid off my own debt. Fixed the cracked phone screen I had lived with for 2 years. Bought groceries without checking my balance 3 times. It felt strange, like I was stealing something I had already earned. But slowly, it started to feel right. One afternoon, I sat down in a cafe with a notebook and wrote 6 words at the top of a clean page. You can help them, not save them. That was the truth. I could love my family. I could root for them. I could even help them, in small, healthy ways. But I could not save them. I was never meant to. That weight was never mine to carry. And if I kept carrying it, I would never have a life of my own. They were grown. They had made choices. And as hard as it was to admit, some of those choices came at my expense. They had turned me into a backup plan, a bailout fund, a quiet martyr who never asked for anything in return. But I was done. I reached out to a therapist for the first time in my life. Not because I was broken, but because I wanted to stop bending. I started waking up without dread in my chest. Started answering the phone without flinching. Started breathing deeper. I still get messages sometimes. From cousins. From old friends. Even from Noah, who left a voicemail crying, saying he had messed everything up. I listened, and then I deleted it. Because I had already given him my trust once. This time, he had to earn his way back. And maybe, someday, we would find our way to healing. But that day was not today. Today, I was finally living for myself. No shame. No debt. No yakas vithignema. Just quiet. And for the first time in my life, I felt free.